conquistadores, men like Juan Ponce de Leon and Hernando de Soto, invaded the coast of Florida in search of gold, they found an unexpected treasure. A crystalline gem of nature that had long been treasured by the Calusa and Timucuan Indians of the area as a beautiful and precious resource. Weeki Wachee. Weeki Wachee, an ancient Indian name meaning little spring. But far from little, Weeki Wachee is actually the surfacing point of a huge underground river. The enormous cavern of the spring was formed by centuries of natural erosion, with over 168 million gallons of crystal clear water a day rushing to the surface. No one knows how deep Weeki Wachee is. Divers have gone down to a depth of 150 feet and probed another 400 feet with lights, but where the bottom lies remains a mystery. However, the pleasures of this exotic and beautiful spot with its magnificent spring and winding river that flows 12 miles to the Gulf of Mexico have always been crystal clear. Since the early 1900s, Weeki Wachee has been a popular swimming and recreation area for Floridians and visitors to the Sunshine State. In 1947, it became even more popular when Newton Perry, a former Navy frogman and swimming instructor, introduced the world to the first Weeki Wachee mermaids. And the rest is history. Weeki Wachee became one of Florida's premier attractions, welcoming thousands of guests every year. The natural beauty of the setting also attracted the attention of Hollywood, with a number of motion pictures and television shows being filmed at Weeki Wachee, including the 1948 film Mr. Peabody and the Mermaid, starring Ann Blythe and William Powell, Neptune's Daughter, a 1949 film featuring Esther Williams and Howard Keel, and popular television series such as the Arthur Godfrey Variety Show, Route 66, and the ABC Summer Special with Tony Randall. Today, visitors to Florida's Weeki Wachee, located about 45 miles north of Tampa at the intersection of US 19 and State Road 50, can enjoy a variety of adventures 365 days a year in a beautiful and natural setting. From the famous underwater mermaid show, which guests view from the air-conditioned comfort of the Mermaid Theater, situated 16 feet below the surface of the spring, to the colorful and fascinating exotic bird show, from a walk through the new animal forest to a ride on the Wilderness River Cruise with a visit to the unique Pelican Orphanage and the thrilling Birds of Prey show. Since its introduction on October 13, 1947, the Weeki Wachee Underwater Mermaid Show has included more than a dozen different original productions, each more spectacular than the last. The current show, Mermaid Magic, is the world's only underwater exhibition of magic and illusion. Featuring tricks designed by Bill Schmelk, who has created illusions for such renowned artists as David Copperfield and Doug Henning, plus the underwater dance numbers of a musical revue, this new show is truly spectacular. Amid the bubbles of their spring, the mermaids of Weeki Wachee show off their grace, poise, and swimming ability in a show guaranteed to entertain. And amaze, as a mermaid makes a deep dive, out of sight, into the heart of the magnificent Weeki Wachee Spring, and the audience follows the action on video screens in the underwater theater. And mermaid magic is only the beginning of the Weeki Wachee experience. For today's Weeki Wachee spreads across 545 acres of natural beauty with gift shops, restaurants, picnic areas, and a variety of fascinating shows, including the exotic bird show, where guests are dazzled by the brilliant plumage of colorful macaws and creamy white cockatoos, and intrigued by their surprising skills, with the spontaneity and unpredictability of the performance of these feathered little actors making it all the more fun to watch. And for guests who are fascinated by close encounters with unforgettable critters, the inhabitants of Weeki Wachee's new animal forest are glad to oblige. This walk along the banks of the Weeki Wachee River under a canopy of trees leads to a petting zoo where in one natural setting you can come face to fur with pygmy goats, rabbits, miniature deer, and barnyard friends like sheep, geese, and donkeys. And they're all eager for a handout, a little attention, and a chance to be in your family photo album. For nature lovers of all ages, the Wilderness River Cruise at Weeki Wachee is a journey into sheer enjoyment. Silent electric-powered boats transport visitors down the winding Weeki Wachee River through a lush forest of exotic foliage and native wildlife, including bald cypress trees with their distinctive knees projecting from the roots, cabbage palms, the state tree of Florida, sweet gum with its star-shaped leaves, plus alligators, raccoons, and birds of all color and description, from tiny gallinus to the beautiful wood ducks that abound in the waving sawgrass. And everyone enjoys a port-o-call at the Weeki Wachee Pelican Orphanage, a refuge and wildlife preserve for injured and disabled seabirds, including the comical brown pelican. And for those who dare, the incredible Birds of Prey show offers a chance to meet the masters of the sky. Trained but untamed, these awesome creatures have come to Weeki Wachee for refuge or rehabilitation, and when possible are returned to their natural environment. In the meantime, the sky above the Birds of Prey arena at Weeki Wachee is the domain of majestic winged marvels such as the great horned owl, Swainson and red-tailed hawks, golden eagles, swift casseroles, the amazing lappet-faced vulture, and other masters of the sky. In season, guests at Weeki Wachee can also enjoy a watery day of fun in the sun at Buccaneer Bay, with 3 sky-high flume rides, including the tallest, fastest river flume in Florida, plus Blackbeard's Lagoon with its Tom Sawyer-type swings, Fantasy Island with all the watery fun kids love, volleyball, picnic areas and snack shops, and a chance to swim in the crystal clear water of the Weeki Wachee River. And if you need accommodations while you're in the area, the Weeki Wachee Holiday Inn, owned and operated by Florida Leisure Attractions, the owner of Weeki Wachee, is situated just across from the entrance to the park. This newly remodeled 122-room inn with lounge and restaurant provides all the amenities travelers have come to expect from the renowned Holiday Inn chain. Florida's Weeki Wachee. located 45 miles north of Tampa at the intersection of US 19 and State Road 50, and open 365 days a year. It's a full day of natural beauty and entertaining shows for the entire family. From the spectacular Mermaid Magic Show featuring the world's only underwater illusions, a musical dance review, and a fantastic deep dive into the heart of the Weeki Wachee Spring, to the exotic bird show with its colorful performing macaws and cockatoos. From the new animal forest where friendly critters of all kinds eagerly await your arrival, to the natural beauty of the Wilderness River Cruise and the fascinating Pelican Orphanage. From the thrilling Birds of Prey show with the awesome Masters of the Sky, to the watery fun in the sun of Buccaneer Bay, you won't want to miss Weeki Wachee. And while you're in Florida, we invite you to visit another fine member of the Florida Leisure Attractions family. Silver Springs, located an hour north of Orlando off I-75, where you can see the underwater beauty and fascinating marine life of this natural artesian spring on the world-famous glass-bottom boat ride. Take a journey down the Fort King Waterway on the Jungle Cruise with a guide to provide commentary as your safari glides past native wildlife from Africa and other exotic lands. Enjoy a touching adventure with the animals in the Silver Springs Deer Park. Thrill to the shows featuring the fascinating inhabitants of the Silver Springs Reptile Institute. Take a trip back in time with the charm and nostalgia of the Antique Car Museum. From everyone at Weeki Wachee and Florida Leisure Attractions, thanks for visiting and happy vacation.
Hi, honey. It's sure good to hear your voice. I wish I was in Paris with you. It sounds like you're right next to...
We didn't always have communications. Once upon a time, in a world just beginning, communication didn't exist. About 2 million years ago, our ancestors were just beginning to control their environment, use fire, create tools, and develop primitive languages. For hundreds of thousands of years, progress was slow. We have only sketchy evidence of the different stages of man's increasing control over the environment, a few primitive tools, cave paintings, and fragments of sculpture. These feeble attempts to communicate are all that remain. Before 10,000 BC, transmission of messages was limited to how far man could see or hear. For thousands of years, long-distance communications were limited to how far man and his horse could run or sail his ships. It could take months, even years, to send and receive messages to distant places. Some of the signaling devices developed during this period were rather sophisticated and were used for centuries. Fire, smoke, drums, various types of visual semaphores were all used, some into the middle of the 18th century. No knowledge of electricity existed, much less the telephone. Carrier pigeons, first used by the Greeks, were still being used to carry messages for the U.S. Army in 1960. To test his theory of static electricity, the Abbey Knoll arranged 200 monks holding hands in a mile-long circle. An electrical shock was then passed to the monks at each end with a Leyden jar. All 200 monks jumped simultaneously. This practical experiment illustrated that electricity traveled instantaneously. Fortunately, there were more serious investigations and experiments being conducted during this time. Men like Franklin, Volta, Ampere, Oersted, Faraday, Wheatstone, Cook, and Morse contributed to the growing understanding and possible uses of electricity. Charles Wheatstone's telegraph was the first practical use of electricity that electricity traveled instantaneously. Fortunately, there were more serious investigations and experiments being conducted during this time. Men like Franklin, Volta, Ampere, Oersted, Faraday, Wheatstone, Cook, and Morse contributed to the growing understanding and possible uses of electricity.
Aren't you glad, Sunday? Aren't you glad, Sunday?
That we're still using your computer? So glad.
Aren't you glad? I mean, hey, how else do we tell that the fold is back except for that?
Exactly. It's kind of part of the branding now. This is once upon a time, I would always start stream without any audio. The fold starts stream without any stream, and that's the classic fold experience.
It's technical issues through and through. It's the way it works. It's good. It's healthy.
Sunday, you sound like you're in a tin can, but of course I do. Of course I do. Why wouldn't I?
Of course he is.
What did you do to your computer?
Why would you sound like you're in a tin can?
I don't know. Why would I?
I don't know. You're straight just pulling from Discord. That's not even an interesting thing I'm doing.
Interesting. Okay, let me look at this. Hang on. Input device. Device is my $300 microphone set, so I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
You're back. It's doubling up for some reason. It's a very strange sound for you. Me neither. Can you talk for 2 seconds? It's very
Faculty,
strange.
you must not depart from the official course descriptions. They are, as you know, comprehensive in scope. We good?
No.
Never subject to interpretation. And Brooke. Deviation only at the cost of your employment. The lecturer who was fired, Melissa McCool, was teaching English 360 in children's literature. Here's the official bulletin description of the course. In addition to firing McCool, Welsh also removed the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, Mark Zoran.
Hold on for a second. Hold on for 1 second.
All right, I'm holding.
All right. Talk again.
These decisions were mine alone, said Welsh.
It does. Discord added doubled in. It's fine. Fucking awful.
Weird.
Yeah, annoying actually would be the phrasing. Annoying as shit would be the phrasing, but that's okay. That's okay. It happens.
I'm playing Bellatrix on the other screen. I'm good.
Fuck. Motherfucker. So frustrating. It's okay. This is what we get for like not spending the time going over it and all of that. We did what? 5 minutes last night.
I think it was more like 2 hours.
It's not sure. Oh, you motherfucker. How you doing Sunday?
I'm doing swell. How are you?
I mean, it's been a long fucking week. And I'll just say it's been a long fucking week. That's kind of the short version. The whole multiple shootings in a couple days, not fun.
Yeah, nope.
Not fun to consider. I mean, as we've had conversations about fascism showing up or authoritarianism showing up and all of that, the people who've been cheering it on and laughing about authoritarianism like coming as a thing,
Yeah.
they have been pointing at, Trump joking at things. Like, it hasn't been, I think, as excessively overt as it has since this new presidency. But even that, the last 2 weeks, I think, have been showing that they're going forward.
They're not just going forward; they're accelerating, and it really feels like I'm increasingly of your mind. I think there is a bid to destabilize as much as possible to make pillage as efficient, so that they can take it. And I don't disagree. I think they're very likely to just take as much capital as they can and run when the system finally collapses. And I think they're aiming for the system to collapse, because that will make Russia the ultimate safe harbor. Just destroy NATO, and then go to the one place that would be the place that would only be threatened by NATO.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
I went down for I don't often go down to the protest myself. The kids and everything make it difficult, plus kid and becoming, and we have other people who are now part of it are able to handle that, I think, with skill.
Kid and becoming, by the way, are two people. They are not abstract concepts, in case you thought this was a Delusion thing. Sorry, continue.
This is true. Kid and becoming. Kid Not Kin is the streamer who kind of came up with the idea, and we founded all of this. And then we brought in other people. I made my way down for the vigil at ICE. I was down there for a few hours the other night. Last night, we had a huge sort of clash with police, and it's kind of interesting to watch how, and just to sort of sing the praises of Kid and everyone who's been doing things for Operation Inflation. The police showed up. They did the thing they do, which is they slowly push in. They wait for someone to do some dumb shit. They wait for violence to break out. They had a paddy wagon set up. They were ready to take literally everyone. And there were a handful of arrests, but mostly people stood back. They yelled at them. They kept things going. And then the police didn't have much to do, so they left. And ostensibly, they were there to unblock the street. As soon as the police left, they took the street back over again.
Yeah.
And this is the proper way to protest. Like, you don't want these protests to be seen as violent and taken over and then suddenly have an excuse for the fascists to do even worse. What you want is everyone to go, "Oh, we're not doing anything, officer." And then as soon as they leave, do it again, because that forces them to go back and forth. It makes it nightmarish, but it doesn't give them sort of that larger scale excuse. And ICE ended up having to actually bring people in, put people on the roof, and we ended up ruining the night of a lot of people, which is the goal. Fuck ICE. Fuck every single one of these people. Every single one of them.
Especially right now, like...
yeah, they're all killers, murderers, and Nazis, period.
Well, I'm not talking about the ICE, especially now, like, after we've had, within the span of 2 days, we've had no less than 3 shootings of unarmed civilians by ICE. The fact that people are still going out in numbers to protest is a testament to just how brave these people are, because Trump has come out and said in the wake of these shootings that they will just protect ICE no matter what, which is basically just an authorization saying, hey.
Well, did you hear JD Vance said they have absolute immunity?
Yeah.
Which is not a thing.
Well, it's not a thing if your constitution exists, but they are clearly treating it as if it does.
Well, and again, we're going to see where that lands, because more footage came out. Just to talk about Minneapolis a little bit, more footage came out of where Good was shot and killed, where she was murdered by a cop.
Yeah.
And it turns out the ICE officer not only has done this before, but he did the thing that they always do, which is put themselves in danger, specifically by putting themselves in front of a car. And his own video, by the way, everyone's saying it was like vest video. He was walking around with his phone.
A cell phone. They don't have vest videos. These are not cops.
Yeah, they don't have any of those things. But he's walking around with his
by the way,
phone,
yeah,
personal cell phone.
Yeah.
Recording for some reason.
Yes.
Like, someone can explain that to me, but he's walking around and he's filming and he's blah, 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 and then as she starts driving, and you can see her face, you can see she's not looking at him, she's not charging him. The car you can see turning.
Yeah.
And he pulls out as he drops it, like puts his phone down and just pops her 3 times really fast, and then calls her a fucking bitch after he kills her. Good job, buddy. Well done.
It's a little bit worse than that. So, like, this is the part that's been really disturbing me. I was watching an interview, I think it was on NBC, where they had this schlubby lawyer guy who looks like me with better hair. And he was explaining, he was asked, like, hey, so does she have to comply with the orders of these ICE agents to get out of her vehicle? And his response was very disturbing to me. He said, normally you do have to comply with law enforcement when law enforcement tells you to do something. And it's like,
oh, we
this
got a
word
tip.
law.
The tip thing didn't go off. I may not have started it back up.
That's fine.
That's okay. NJ, thank you for the, I think, Australian 10, which is less silly than Canadian $10. Did you see the footage of elder woman telling off the line of ICE in Minnesota like a matriarch drill sergeant? I've watched a lot of good videos. People are really pissed. People are genuinely upset about this.
The referring to this as law enforcement, just as they referred to the invasion of Venezuela as law enforcement, blurs the line where there are no longer any standards or any political rights. And the obvious attitude of the Trump administration is that American citizens have no rights. Because this isn't even, they aren't targeting illegal immigrants, and this is really important. They are training on illegal immigrants to target Americans. It's very obvious that that's what's going on. It's very obvious that they are being rapidly deployed specifically to provide the training for occupying as essentially an invading force.
I have a slightly different take on this because it's
okay.
The thing of standing in front of a car is there are Supreme Court decisions about this, that police aren't allowed to do this, because what it is basically putting yourself in harm's way to justify harming someone else.
Well, it's more specifically, just to go off that point as well, because I agree with you. There's a reason why police are actually positively trained to not fire into moving vehicles. That's because, let's say you are in front of a car and it is moving. If you shoot the driver, does the car stop moving? No. The driver is still in the car with their foot on the wheel. There's just no longer an agent at the wheel. So now you are endangering everybody in the vicinity who that car could then drive into, and it cannot stop.
Right. Well, and again, this is a thing cops do to force the situation. One of the ongoing thing that the most extreme, angry fucking asshole cops who are out there, and again, police are a big gradient like everyone else. The most asshole are doing this. They stand in positions of danger. They go, oh, and then they shoot and kill. So that way they have an excuse. And the most asshole right-wing Nazi pieces of shit in the world get to see this and they go, see, it was justified. That's the hope. But multiple court cases have shown that, 1, we're not allowed to do this. 2, you can't actually do this if you're a police officer. But 3, as this happens, this is happening because they're recruiting the worst of the worst. And I mean this. ICE is going out of their way to recruit people who have these kinds of backgrounds, who have these kinds of brown shirt tactics. Yes. Because for them, they don't give a shit. They want people who are basically creating
they want the
hardline fear. They want brown shirts.
That's what I'm saying. It's like these mass deployments of like 2,000 people to Minnesota. That is a very odd number. That number sticks out to me. We talked about this the other day. Mm-hmm. That is not the number. That's not a number that is tuned to a population, which is not going to be round like that. That is a number that is meant to instill fear.
Yeah.
They are sending 2,000, not 1,800, not 2,200, 2,000. And as far as like what is the purpose? What is their activity while they are there? It is to get the training they didn't get at home. There were articles being published in October about how the training, the attempted training of these people has been just an unmitigated disaster. They aren't trained in anything. These are all mall cops, the kind of mall cops that show up to work with a loaded gun because they want to feel like Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
That's who these people are, and that's who they're meant to be. And I, in all honesty, think that what's happening is they are being deployed specifically to condition the American public to be compliant with quote unquote law enforcement, i.e., just secret police with no transparency. Because like when you see footage of like police using their weapons, two things happen. One, you see it. They have a camera now on their vest, and there's a reason why they have a camera on their vest now. They have a camera on their vest so that the public is able to see exactly what transpired prior to the person choosing to discharge their weapon. And then what you will see when you watch that footage is they will call it in. These people are not doing that. They are discharging their weapons, and then they don't know what to do. There's no process.
Well, and
they run away.
It's the goal for this overall is to create that fear, is to have that space, and to have people who are willing to do it against other laws. And that's why they go for the cops who do this. They
Yes.
go for the police people who do this, because the other laws, it's those things that, all cops are bad, but some are bad, more bad than others, I think would be the phrasing. The people who are true believers in some semblance of law, or wouldn't do dirty things, or wouldn't plant evidence, which is however many of the cops you think, there are people, again, that end, they want those people. They want the convictions. They want the numbers. And again, the stats have already shown, their own stats, that 99+% of all illegals that have been detained or are in detainment right now are not criminals, have never been charged with a crime, have no history of a crime, have nothing. And when you're talking about that many people who are just innocent people, to justify this, you need to be already in a place of kind of okay with that shit.
Yep. And what's really disturbing is a whole lot of the American public has just been primed to accept one of these people without even questioning the fact that, hey, we don't even know who this guy was. When Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd, his name was known. He was investigated. He went to court. People knew who, what, where, and why, and how. In this case, the president is openly coming out, lying about the situation, and not just that, is actively obstructing people from investigating it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, when there's a word for when a head of state sends in an illegal occupying force with no transparency against the wishes of the local authorities to kill American civilians who are political opponents of the regime. That's a civil war act.
Yeah, no, we're actively in a civil war. Like, that's actually where we are. Now, the question is going to be the response.
It's like a civil state of war almost. It's not even like, because it's not even like there are factions. It's not like there's like sides. It's like, no,
it's
one
exactly
party
what Iran is doing right now.
Yes.
And the fact that we are in that place where, oh yes, America and Iran hate each other, and oh yes, we support one over the other. They're both fucking bastards, and they're both doing the same exact shit in the same ways, and they're both brutal to their people.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable.
Convenience tells us we know who this guy is. We know who this guy is now because people investigated it. His name was not relinquished. In fact, the publishing of his name was criticized by the administration. Yeah,
they consider it an act of terror.
They are actively hiding these people's identities because they don't want any accountability. They want these people to be able to just go out there and kill Trump's political opponents.
Yes.
Just flatly. Because here's the thing. Just as police are trained specifically not to be in front of vehicles or to fire into moving vehicles because it only endangers them and the public, when someone, therefore, especially as a result of training, because they are claiming he followed his training, he
was a trainer, by the way.
If someone goes in front of a vehicle with that training, the shooting is the purpose of being there.
Yeah.
And every single person that ICE has shot so far, by the way, has been in a vehicle.
And they've always justified it in the same way.
Yes.
We were under immediate threat. But again, Of what? And I always point back, at this point, I'm pointing back to Chicago. I think I'll point back to this, obviously now. Here in Portland, we just had a husband and wife who were shot, and the husband's in not great condition, still in the hospital, unknown. The wife's in critical condition. All the same way. From the front, their vehicle is it's coming right at me. Like, you want to talk about old South Park jokes? It's literally it's coming right at me. And
oh man!
But in the end, the Chicago woman, they had to drop all charges because there was nothing to go on. So when you're talking about not even being able to charge someone, yet they're still calling her a domestic terrorist. They're still saying she did these things. We're in a place of not only being post-truth, we're in a place of completely separating reality at this point from everything else.
Yeah. We're just completely anti-truth at this point. There's no connection to reality anymore.
No.
One of the things that really stuck out to me, I'm trying to find this interview very quickly because I was watching it before I streamed today.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that was really sticking out to me was a part of that argument that person made about how you have to comply with law enforcement is when their lights are running. These people are in unmarked vehicles. Imagine, if you will, that you are in Mexico on vacation and a truck rolls up and some people with guns just jump out of the car, and you've got a limited range of places that you can go. You're on a road, maybe there's buildings side to side, and they're storming up to you. They're saying, "Get the fuck out of the car!" They're yelling at you.
Right.
What do? Do you get out of the vehicle? No, hell no. You run. And these people are not in like vehicles that say ICE on front of them, because their entire strategy is to ambush people who they suspect with their CSI Miami investigative skills are illegal immigrants. Jump them and then hopefully, ideally, have them resist in such a way that they don't have to go through the complicated process of deporting them.
Correct.
To put it politely. The scary thing is there actually is not a correct way to deal with being stalked by ICE, because they are violent hooligans who want an excuse to kill you, and they don't care if you're an immigrant or not.
And the orders that they were giving that supposedly everyone needed to follow, and she didn't follow orders. I heard on the get out of here, get out of your car at the same time from multiple people with guns. So you're literally in a double bind. And also, there is no way out. And again, how do you deal with the police? You follow lawful orders. There's no lawful orders here. These people just have guns and they don't have any local authority, let alone law enforcement authority. So what puts them in that spot? Well, no one knows. And so again, to just say what you're saying, there's no way to deal with them.
Well, actually, that's not strictly speaking true, because they do have some law enforcement authority. Their authority is to enforce immigration laws. The problem is that means that they have no jurisdiction whatsoever over American citizens unless they are obstructing them. That truck that the men were coming out of, and that guy, they were not actively apprehending an illegal immigrant. She was just trying to follow orders and drive away. Orders, by the way, that she does not have to follow. But she was just trying to drive away. So essentially what has happened is a whole bunch of the American public, all of these freedom-loving, free market of ideas, we just want to have like diverse representation in the colleges and universities. All these people have jumped out in defense of untrained secret police, and they are secret police because you don't know who they are, spontaneously picking people out of the crowd at will based on who they think is an enemy of the state and just murdering them. Or black-bagging them, because a lot of the Americans that ICE gets, they don't shoot. They grab American citizens, they put them into a holding cell, and they don't know what the fuck to do, so they stay there for weeks.
But again, just to say, ICE is technically, and this law hasn't changed, there hasn't been a law passed. Mm-hmm. They're not allowed to do anything outside of 100 miles out of the border. That's it. So that's been a standing thing, by the way. You can look, the ACLU talks about this recently. They've updated it. The U.S. Border Patrol, ICE, all of that have jurisdiction in that 100-mile zone. But outside of that, nothing. Like they're not allowed to operate there. So, but we allow this anyway, because we live in a totalitarian nightmare state. Laws don't matter. Whatever Trump says and he wants, he gets. People don't give a fuck about any of those things because they cheer on authoritarianism, not realizing they're the baddies.
Well, it's a little bit worse than that, though, because it seems like every single world leader in the Western world is sort of in cahoots, including ones that have been directly threatened with annexation. Carney has been coming out. Zelensky, weirdly, has been coming out. Keir Starmer and Macron have been coming out, all agreeing with the logic behind invading a country's sovereign territory and kidnapping its head of state in Venezuela. So we're in a situation right now where you are actually quite literally dealing with a global cabal of billionaires who are trying to create a one world state under American leadership.
Yeah, basically.
That's my read of this at this point. Because I don't see an angle where countries that are being whose sovereignty is being actively threatened. Like a lot of these are NATO countries. He is threatening to attack when he talks about attacking Greenland. He is threatening to attack a NATO country. Whose interest is it in to break up NATO right now? So the fact that all of these people
they don't care though.
Exactly.
The whole thing is about enriching American corporations on a global level because the borders don't matter anymore.
It's a little bit different than that. I
don't see that. I see them as just, what do we take? We need this for, like, the Venezuela thing, genuinely, just to get oil companies there. Like, there's a reason oil companies were the first one who were briefed. There's a reason that oil companies held a press conference with Trump today, which was fucking insane as they just sucked him off in front of the world. Yeah. It was insane. But there's that thing that's ongoing. That's the drive. It's for corporate sort of growth and global hegemon of the capitalist system.
I agree to a certain extent. I think a major part of this, though, and I think in particular of the people behind Trump, including the oil companies, including the tech billionaires. I don't think it's about enriching America. I think it's about creating a situation in which the new pillar of power becomes which billionaires you can curry favor with. Because I think what's happened right now, when you have the breakdown of borders and international sovereignty in this way, and capital becomes more nakedly the actual site of legitimacy, because that is what has taken place here. Because capital has always been the condition, in our world at least, for as long as we've been alive. Capital has been the condition of being able to meet the threshold of being able to be a sovereign state. Namely, you need to be able to have the power, the military, the economic power, to maintain a monopoly of control within this territory such that nobody else can say, hey, we need to move in to fill a vacuum, because there's not a vacuum there. To move in would be an act of war. If the condition of that now becomes having one of these giant billionaires on your side so they can enact economic punishments on states for doing that, the international system of states is over. We are quite literally moving into a situation where we're moving into Dune. We have billionaire fiefdoms being erected around us right now. And like the danger is not, will the United States invade everywhere around it? Like that's a danger for some countries. The real danger is, will it have to? Will we be in a situation in which the whim of billionaires will determine the public policy of multiple states at once without their actually having a real say in it? And I think that's,
yeah. And I think one of the things, the last bastion fighting that, this might be really depressing, is going to be the EU and what was the liberal order of America. That's what they're trying to ultimately destroy. Biden did something not great. Obama did something not great, but there was a general push against sort of the straight up corporate control of everything, where there's no democracy, nothing left to push back.
Hey Titan, you sent me a paywalled article, by the way.
I love paywalled
Chrome is
articles.
broken, so I can't even frickin' Chrome is so broken right now. Have you been finding that? Like I literally can't even like copy the URL to go to archive. It's like
Houston Oil. I can't. Houston Oil CEO calls Venezuela uninvestable.
Here we go. I got the archived version. I'll post that.
I got it up.
Our DMs. Oh, you got it up? Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is from the meeting today. I watched the meeting today.
Yeah.
This isn't.
I did
beyond that. So what happened in the meeting today, the very short version, is they all sucked off Trump and they went, "Hey, this is like the best thing in the world. Say thank you so much." There was a little bit of, "Holy shit, it's dangerous," because
it is.
And Trump basically said that America guarantees the safety of all oil workers and companies that work there.
No, they won't. Hey, when the local populations, if the local populations, and this is a very real possibility, by the way, end up revolting and hacking them to bits, America will not come in to save them.
Well, no, and this is the part that I think scares me a lot.
Yeah.
Is what this means as you start seeing like the next step. So rumors were that one of the reasons Trump didn't back the opposition leader is because she accepted the Nobel Peace Prize he wanted. She dedicated it to him, but she still accepted it, which apparently upset him so much he refused. So after that news came out, she announced that she's going to come to Washington to give Trump the Nobel Peace Prize that she won. And he's excited to accept it, which means he will be backing her to take over Venezuela.
And she will not be able to hold on to Venezuela.
Not a chance in hell.
Once again, like underlying all of this, and this is the part where it gets really bizarre. We've been talking about these billionaires creating a new world order, right? But sort of in a key where it sounds like, oh, they want to make stuff last in this way. And probably stuff will last in that way, but that's not why they're doing it. They're doing it because they're all old men who are actually quite unhealthy looking. And this is about scoring points before the game is over.
Yes, it is.
Trump doesn't care about future stability because he doesn't have a future. Look at him. He's like melting off the bone.
He's at end of life. And whatever that means and however it sets up, that's where he is.
I honestly, I pray for the day when Vance takes over because I think he's too timid to be as consistently insane as Trump is.
Well, no, again, Trump has a unique position because he's wholly empty. Anyone can find themselves in him because he just lies to whoever he's talking to and just continues the lie. He's a con man. JD Vance doesn't have that.
No,
he has some level of attachment to Peter Thiel's sort of worldview and all of
JD Vance. JD Vance is a Yarvanite and a Peter Thiel simp, which means, by the way, that he is both very stupid and he still has humanity. Not a lot of it, not enough of it to count, but enough of it where it sort of inflects his decision-making process.
Really, because he cares about something.
Well, also because he's not a billionaire with no ceiling on his power. Like, one of the problems with people like Trump is that these are people without actual peers, except for sex perverts and criminals. And you go insane when you have no limits in your world, when there are no consequences to failure. And he's in a situation where I was listening to Radio Warner. I think I mentioned this the other day, so I apologize for being redundant. When I was listening to the Venezuela episode of Radio Warner that just came out, which is really good, by the way, if you're not subscribed to that, I listen to them.
Highly recommend them.
Very casual, but very well informed and very sincere.
Warner is amazing, genuinely across the board.
They were talking about how they think that the Trump administration's current behavior, they will learn from experience. It's not tenable in the long term. I respectfully, very strongly disagree for two reasons. First of all, I don't think there is a long term. But secondly, the consequences of failure will not reach them within their lifetimes. And it's like with Forrest Death. Have you read Sing Like a State?
Yes.
It's like at the beginning of Seeing Like a State, he gives the parable of Forrest Death. And what happens with Forrest Death is very interesting. So the Prussian government had this idea of, we will analyze the contents of a forest. We will pick out the stuff that is useful from a resource perspective and get rid of the stuff that isn't, and arrange it so it's easily navigable and trackable. So we know in this area of land there is this grid of trees and this grid of trees here. And so we can plan how our forests will grow and get lumber as efficiently as possible.
Yep.
And it's a great idea until you realize that the chaos and the messiness of the forest is actually what makes for its health and its resiliency against disease. However, it takes multiple human generations for the soil to degrade to the point where you recognize you've made a mistake. And so what happens is multiple cycles pass, and then all of a sudden the forests die.
It's easily one of the best metaphors for this. It's a stunning metaphor
brilliant.
for this.
But Seeing Like a State by James C. Scott, who died too young, brilliant book. But the point is, the consequences of failure can't educate you if you die before they come to existence. And that's where we're at right now, because when the consequences of what Trump is doing fully come to fruition, which will be never, this is going to echo for generations, which is probably all he wants. When they do, all of these people will be talking about completely different people and probably completely different dictators.
Yeah.
Because like there's another factor in all of this, which is the arbitrary power that Trump has normalized can now be wielded by a Democrat, and they will not be different.
No, they'll be what Obama was to Bush, a moderate view of it with some minor social shifts, but
Yes.
generally just doing the same thing.
And they will not relinquish power, and they will pass it on to the next Republican who takes office.
Unless
Sorry,
there
go on.
is a real change. And I think
Unless there is a real change.
and there is opportunity for this. There's opportunity for this long term. My hope is dwindling. It exists. But my hope does dwindle with this one, because as we start talking about what it means for this next election, which is coming up this year, how it'll run, who's running, the only good news I have is that you're not seeing moderate liberal Democrats. Like, you're just not seeing them come out.
They've been squeezed. They're being squeezed out.
And that puts us in a place where I think however you may feel about the sort of, I don't know, reformist movement that is Mamdani and AOC, I don't know if I would give them the same space as I would in Obama. What they're wanting to do is different enough. But again, without the votes, none of it matters. Without real change, none of it matters. This is, speaking of the Wardener, and I know I mentioned this the other day, his book on the Civil War is, I think, really important for everyone to read. If you look up War Nerd Civil War book, you'll find it. I won't be saying the title here.
Don't say the title.
It's an excellent book. And I think that type of thing is what we're looking at, because there is no way to do a minor shift. Oh, well, we can do a few laws that'll put someone in order. We've learned laws are irrelevant without teeth behind them and without people who are willing to do what is ultimately a gentleman's handshake of society.
I like handshake. I thought we should coin that handshake. That's pretty good.
That's
pretty good.
That's a good Freudian. That's a good Freudian slip.
But like Weber's notion of we were talking about like legitimacy and law and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I really like Weber's approach. A lot of people ignore him. They think he's like people don't like paying attention to the Germans after some mishaps over the last 100 years, and for good reason. But like, here's the thing though. Weber had a really good definition of political legitimacy. Why? Because it rests on practice, not on some notion of rightness. So, and it accounts for rightness. So for Weber, when you're talking about the legitimacy of a state or of a law, it comes down to the relative chance that people anticipate it will be treated as legitimate. As in, if ICE shoots somebody in the street, do we collectively internalize that as, oh, that's just the police, FAFO? Or do we interpret that as, oh, this is a violation of norms, go out and protest? It seems to be kind of 50-50 right now, which is very disturbing. Law is only law if it satisfies the first condition. And what is happening right now is the Constitution is being shown in its weakness, not by a reasoned argument against its contents, not by an ideological move to reform it, but by a general culture of contempt. This is why judges will punish displays of contempt of court very harshly, because at the exact moment when people laugh at the court system, it stops being the court system.
Agreed.
It stops having its meaning. This is why judges foster this paternalistic attitude. It's also, by the way, its legitimacy is why people will watch judges just like lay down the law, metaphorically speaking, where they will talk down to and sort of pontificate at the criminals they're trying.
Oh, we got another super chat. Smith Black, thank you. I don't know why it's not playing. I'll fix it.
If the American empire falls in our lifetime, do you think Americans have the ability to do the deep work to learn from their mistakes? I don't.
It's not falling in our lifetime. Like that's
no, and it's not as well. Actually, yes and no. I think America as the identity of empire is going to fall in our lifetime. I don't think what we're calling right now the American empire falls in our lifetime. I think it's going to be something bigger.
As it merges with capital and
Yes.
borders become pointless, America, the idea, is going to be the most empire that empire's ever known.
Well, I think it's going to be empire without America.
It's going to be the Fourth Reich.
I think America is going to fall to the side. I think that America is going to dissolve, as Marx would say, and you're going to have just the empire. It's not going to be called that, even though that'd be cool.
I don't know.
It'd be nice if it just called itself that. That'd be convenient. Just like in Andor.
The position Trump holds and the use of a president in that position in very particular ways basically necessarily is being captured by the systems that are going to require him to be there to bail out hyper-capitalist structures. Like, for example, when AI crashes, that's what they need a president for. They need someone to be in there and fix that and to give them a bunch of money, not by saving people, but by saving the corporations. But since they've defanged all the regulatory apparatuses, since they've ruined the ability for us to have any sort of large-scale America project from a state perspective, I would almost say that it is much more the capitalist fascist version of things that I see going forward. That's a little different than like America, the empire that's invading. I wouldn't even necessarily say significantly that the way that invasions happened in Iraq, that's not what we just did in Venezuela.
No, it's much worse, actually, in a lot of ways.
Because we basically defanged them with our military, but it was at the behest and in the support of American oil interests and corporations, and then using that sort of threat of a big stick to continue keeping them in place. We don't even have to occupy. We don't have to invade significantly.
Yeah. And we're not talking about the human cost, by the way, because obviously the invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan claimed millions of lives. The point is, the point is that this opens the floodgate to just repetitions of Iraq and Afghanistan without any of even just the cultural pushback that we once had. The normalization of this is the most scary part about this, because with it goes also the possibility of ever going back. On the subject of empire, Brooks, I gotta go pee really badly. And do you know what else starts with P?
Pluribus.
We're gonna talk about Pluribus.
You want to do that
after these
important messages. All right, let me see what I can get. You can give me 2 seconds.
By the way, guys, if you super chat, I pee faster. I'll be right back.
All right. Bye-bye.
Hi, honey. It's sure good to hear your voice. I wish I was in Paris with you. It sounds like you're right next to...
We didn't always have communications. Once upon a time, in a world just beginning, communication didn't exist. About 2 million years ago, our ancestors were just beginning to control their environment, use fire, create tools, and develop primitive languages. For hundreds of thousands of years, progress was slow. We have only sketchy evidence of the different stages of man's increasing control over the environment. A few primitive tools, cave paintings, and fragments of sculpture. These feeble attempts to communicate are all that remain. Before 10,000 BC, transmission of messages was limited to how far man could see or hear. For thousands of years, long-distance communications were limited to how far man and his horse could run or sail his ships. It could take months, even years, to send and receive messages to distant places. Some of the signaling devices developed during this period were rather sophisticated and were used for centuries. Fire, smoke, drums, various types of visual semaphores were all used, some into the middle of the 18th century. No knowledge of electricity existed, much less the telephone. Carrier pigeons, first used by the Greeks, were still being used to carry messages for the U.S. Army in 1960. To test his theory of static electricity, the Abbey Knoll arranged 200 monks holding hands in a mile-long circle. An electrical shock was then passed to the monks at each end with a Leyden jar. All 200 monks jumped simultaneously. This practical experiment illustrated that electricity traveled instantaneously. Fortunately, there were more serious investigations and experiments being conducted during this time. Men like Franklin, Volta, Ampere, Oersted, Faraday, Wheatstone, Cook, and Morse contributed to the growing understanding and possible uses of electricity. Charles Wheatstone's telegraph was the first practical use of electricity for sending and receiving messages. Samuel Morse improved upon the idea by developing better equipment and a practical code. In 1844, his first line between Washington and Baltimore went into service. 3 years after Morse sent his historic message, "What Hath God Wrought?" from Washington to Baltimore, an individual was born in Edinburgh, Scotland, whose life would change the world. Bell grew up deeply involved in the study of speech. His father and grandfather both taught elocution, wrote and published books. His father, Melville, invented a system of visible speech symbols by which he was able to teach deaf people to talk. After both of Bell's brothers died of tuberculosis and Alexander himself was threatened, the family moved from the cold, damp climate of England to America, where they settled in Brantford, Ontario. Bell's continued interest in electricity led him to try to find a way to send several messages over a single telegraph wire simultaneously. Alexander substituted for his father at the Boston School for the Deaf. Thomas Sanders, leather merchant, and Gardner Hubbard, eminent Boston lawyer, fathers of 2 deaf children, became interested in Bell's experiments and the commercial applications of the harmonic telegraph. Hubbard and Sanders offered financial help in return for a share of the profits from any patents that might result. Bell agreed, and the three formed the Bell Patent Association. Bell moved his experiments to the Boston electrical shop of Charles Williams, where young Tom Watson was assigned to assist in his work. In the attic of the Williams shop, in separate rooms, Bell and Watson continued their experiments, their instruments connected by thin wires. Watson turned an adjustment screw so tightly that the reed stuck. Attempting to free it, he plucked it with his finger. Miraculously, the sound was transmitted to Bell in the other room. This was Bell's first telephone. With this breakthrough, Bell sketched a new device. Watson immediately set out to make it. The new instrument consisted of a diaphragm with a wire attached and suspended in a small metal cup of diluted sulfuric acid, connected through a battery to a receiver in the next room. Bell and Watson continued refining this liquid transmitter through the remainder of 1875. On February 14, 1876, a patent was filed, just 3 hours before Elisha Gray filed a caveat for a similar device. Bell's patent was issued on March 7, 1876. 3 days later, Bell dropped a liquid transmitter.
I got to tell you, Sunday, I was not necessarily looking forward to this conversation after the last back and forth we had about a sci-fi show. It didn't end
What
well.
was the last sci-fi show we talked about?
I'm just saying. Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars.
Yeah, the last
Oh,
time
yeah.
we don't disagree.
That's the one you cried in.
often.
Yeah.
Yeah, I cried. We don't disagree often on shows. Really. I mean, we talk often about a lot of shows that we like and we both enjoy, like It, Welcome to Derry.
It Welcome to Derry was
great.
excellent.
It was great.
One of the best shows, period. It was brilliant. It was
Very
better
well
than it was
done.
better than the movies.
It's the best thing done with that book ever.
Yes.
In my opinion, again, but I thought it was great. We agree on a great deal of these things. Would you like to give a short review of Pluribus for everyone who's curious what you think? Yeah.
Pluribus is a new show on Apple TV. Yeah, it's on Apple TV. And it's brilliant and fantastic, and you should all watch it. Spoiler alert, by the way, because we're going to ruin it for you, and it's worth watching without those spoilers.
There's no way we can even have this discussion without spoilers as part of it.
Yes.
For me.
So just FYI, if you trust me, and you should, if you want to go and actually enjoy Pluribus, which is phenomenal, it is so good. It is one of the best shows, period, that I've seen. You should go watch it before you watch this episode, because we will ruin it for you. Go on.
So I will say Vince Gilligan has a very unique position for me. I don't usually, when I have like a top 10 list of movies or anything, very rarely is the same person involved in 2, let alone 3 of a top 10 for me. There's maybe nobody else that this applies for. And Vince Gilligan does. He wrote and directed some of my favorite X-Files episodes, aside from being a major force in like the direction
Which
of that
ones
show.
are those, by the way? I'm gonna show my ignorance here. Which ones did he do?
He did lots of them.
Name a good one.
The entire Black Oil arc.
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
Sure. Okay. I'll
we'll go with that.
Fair. Yeah.
The one, my favorite and it's kind of related to this. My favorite of his is Mulder can see this mysterious alien that's going to kill everybody, and no one else can see it, and so he's like super paranoid about it. And then it turns out it's actually that it's a hallucination about it. And so finally Scully can see it and she believes. Great moment. Good episode. He did a lot of really great shit. Breaking Bad, a masterpiece of, aside from just how it changed television. Breaking Bad's a masterpiece. Better Call Saul might be my favorite TV show. And I say might be in that
I've got a super chat. Radical says for the $5, thank you very much. If you have not watched Pluribus, please take advantage of Paramount's free week of streaming and watch it. Then unsub Theory. This is not President Sunday. We don't have a theory meter here, but thank you.
We're actually going to be getting into theory in our review of this. I will.
Yes, we will. You're getting theory, don't worry, but you're not paying for it.
I consider Better Call Saul to be, again, I have a very weird list of top 10, but Better Call Saul is a masterpiece in terms of how it does a character study, the way it does shots, the way it does reveals, the way the character arc builds, the way it does a real character story and how everyone interacts. And
less so in terms of how it figures the judicial system as sort of like a Christian redemptive machine, but continue.
We can debate on that. I
hated the ending of that show.
I thought the ending of the show was fantastic.
I think the ending of the show is fantastic for what it was. I hated on principle the ending of the show. I think it was executed well. I have no objections to the execution of that ending. I did object to the way in which the correct choice.
Them having a cigarette together at the end of the show.
That was good. That was good. But here's the problem, and this is why I don't like it. They have a cigarette together. What it doesn't show is that now he's slave labor. It valorizes the prison system.
It wasn't about that.
I know it wasn't about that, but I don't like how
who was he paying penance for? What was he doing?
He was paying penance for what's his name? The lawyer guy?
No.
Everything for him as well, but also
everything was for her. The confession was for her. The jail time was for her. It was him showing her who he could become. And who he was. It was him making right by her because he ruined her life.
Okay, but here's the catch, though. He did that in such a way where he stopped being the person he became immediately following that. Because now he has to live for however long. But he is now a slave, which means what is he going to be doing when he's in there?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
That's the.
And well, as I said, like I appreciate it for what it is.
That's the
at
ideal...
a meta level. I don't like the framing.
Fair enough. But Better Call Saul, fuck. There are scenes in that I will rewatch so many times because of just how it's paced. And it is slow as fuck, but so good.
It's better than Breaking Bad. It's significantly better than Breaking Bad, actually.
I think it's like a refined Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad has some really amazing moments. Again, top 10 show for me. But it's not Better Call Saul. So I go to watch Pluribus. Excited about this. I binge shows pretty quick. And I will say, to me, it's a 4 out of 10.
A 4 out of 10.
I really, really don't like this show.
Elaborate, please.
It is filmed beautifully. It's acted incredibly well. It's all the Vince Gilligan tricks and bags and all the people in it. They're great. We'll start with what I consider to be the worst thing of it.
Okay.
And this is a larger discussion, so bear with me for a second, Sunday. Because
listen, guys. We've been in advance. In advance. We've been here before. Okay. Mommy and Daddy fight sometimes, but we're on the same team. Okay. I promise we're not divorcing. Sorry. Go ahead.
You know what midichlorians are?
Midichlorians are microscopic life forms that live within all living cells and allow the Force to communicate to us.
They come from the earliest drafts of Star Wars, where George decided to make the Wills, which is spelled with an H, W-H, Wills, tiny little magic samurai that live in your blood. That's a thing that I'm describing that actually was in like an early draft.
They
of
were
Star
in
Wars.
they put a nod to them in
did.
Rogue One.
They did. Midichlorians made its return. Between there, none of us knew how the Force worked, right? We didn't know what it was, how it was. It was kind of this interesting, mysterious thing.
It was like God / Dharma / something.
Yeah, but the Force wasn't the point. What made the
Yeah.
show interesting was everything else that like the Force enabled, these secondary things, the way that father and son, or father mother, or mother or daughter father, or anyone could be connected, or the connection of all people, or like all of this could be cool, fun things to sort of think about and have inside of that. The midichlorians ruined that, because what midichlorians did is tell us in our language of science, how the Force works in a way that would be knowable to our level of science. This is stupid to me, and it ruins a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not alone in this. I think this does this for a lot of people. I bring this up because the first 15 minutes of the first episode of Pluribus, enjoy spoilers from here out, to me is the making that mistake. I love Vince Gilligan. All of his episodes of X-Files, all of his shows, he is Mr. fucking Nightmare Detail.
So to clarify, if I may.
Yeah.
Just for people who haven't seen the show yet. And spoiler alert, by the way, we are now ruining it. So if
Yeah.
you want to go watch it and you want to go actually enjoy it blind, which I highly recommend, now's the time to go. The opening of Pluribus begins with, I think it's like their workers at SETI getting I don't remember the details exactly, but they
get a radio message of some sort.
They get a radio message from some star somewhere. And they figure out over time that, this is sending us instructions on how to create a virus.
It's sending us RNA, not a virus.
RNA, yes. RNA, sorry, yeah.
And it's RNA that they then transform into DNA.
Yeah.
That they then decide to inject into a bunch of mice.
Yes.
And one of those mice becomes catatonic-ish.
Yeah.
And one of the scientists pulls it out of its drawer, takes off the scientist's Kevlar gloves, which prevent bites.
Yeah.
And gets bit by that mouse, who then runs away through the glove, has a seizure, is taken through quarantine by the other person, and begins infecting everyone with whatever the fuck she has.
Yeah.
This is effectively Unity, the hive mind virus, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, first 15 minutes are this explanation. If I'm watching Vince Gilligan, and when he did this in Breaking Bad, for example, when he went deep into details about the science of making meth, and it wasn't exact, but it was enough, so that way when Walt would say a thing, we would know, he wasn't giving the real answer there. Oh, shit. Like, if you could pay attention, you can see things in the show that is about those details. By going so deep into this, by giving such explanations, I had nothing to go on because they never went back to it. There were a billion questions that they opened up because the science was our science. It's science that we kind of know. That DNA, if you get injected with DNA, it doesn't make you everything this is. I have no idea. Like, there's a billion things we can go into, but it does none of these things. The whole setup from there ends up having these weird logical questions that I was waiting for answers for, or holes I was waiting that not only never happened, but that they kind of just step past and even hand wave in a couple of situations and never go into. So if Vince had from the beginning said, you know what, I'm not explaining this shit, fucking have out of nowhere this happening, and we see it from we see everything from her perspective, whatever her character is in this. Sorry, I'm going to call her Kim because we were just on Better Call Saul. We see everything from Susan's perspective. She has no idea about any of this, so don't show it. Why are you
It's Carol.
letting
It's Carol, not Susan.
Who cares? Carol, whatever it is, why are you showing us this? Just start from her perspective where this happens and we don't know. I love that. That would fundamentally change everything for me. But again, that's not what the show was. The show was the explanation, followed by, I have just an enormous number of questions that I do not understand fundamentally how they work within the show as a thing.
I will have two objections. The first one will be answering directly on the level that you're criticizing, which is the science depicted as bullshit. And then
even if we take it as true,
yes,
it doesn't work in its own logic either.
How so? Explain.
Okay. If for example, you can inject DNA and DNA then what? Changes fundamentally our drives and gives us memories and understandings of things we wouldn't have otherwise. I don't understand that.
I think the explanation would be something to the effect of like whatever they did maybe did something else that isn't legible to our science. And so what they created was something that generated some other organism that hasn't been identified yet that altered the architecture of the organism it was then injected into or in which it was fostered. So the question is, was it just did a virus just spontaneously emerge, or is something else kind of going on? And we're just not privy to that. It wasn't shown to us.
If I were to accept this, the premise then is we shouldn't have been shown any of this.
I disagree, and I'll tell you why. One of the key factors of the many's, we'll call it the many, okay? Of the many's psychology, thinking of System Shock too, but of the many psychology here, is that they have no privileging of different levels of life, and it begins in a rat. It doesn't begin in a human. I think that's kind of important.
Okay.
I think it's going to be important for later on, because one of the major points of friction is the anthropocentrism of the protagonist, who is like struggling to understand.
They kill a billion people.
Well, not exactly though.
They do. They literally killed a billion people.
They killed a billion people incidentally.
No,
it's
it's not incidental. If I poison everybody and afterwards some people are fine, I poisoned everybody. When you spray via chemtrails DNA that is going to make everyone have seizures for 30 seconds and a billion people die, you did that.
Oh, absolutely. But here's the catch though. The many is comprised of all of the minds that it has assimilated, right?
Well,
the minds that it has.
I have questions about that.
But the minds that it, well, I think that's fair. But the minds that it has assimilated so far at this point,
and minds that weren't assimilated and died on the way, apparently.
What?
And minds that died before they could be fully assimilated.
No, they didn't die before they were fully assimilated. They were.
Her wife did. Her wife was fully assimilated?
Her wife was fully assimilated. They have all of her memories.
Where do they store that?
That's a good question.
Yeah, they have a cloud service. It's a Dropbox for the many.
Well, we don't know, is the crucial point.
I know, but
we assume. But
we do know, but this is the thing. We do know because it shows us.
No,
like
it shows us.
No, it shows us that the mouse is the first to be infected, right?
Yes.
And the mouse bites in order to transfer it. The mouse is aware in some capacity, or like it's the zombie thing. Maybe it's bites in order to transfer it. Why does the person kiss to transfer it? Why does she kiss anyone?
Because right now you have a mind meld, a unimind between a mouse and a human.
But I would disagree there. Where are the mice?
What do you mean, where are the mice?
Why are the mice not part of the hive mind?
They probably are. It probably infected all of the mice afterwards.
Okay. We don't see this.
Because like here's the upshot though. The upshot of
when you are
the mouse being
the problem with going down this road. If you are a person like Vince Gilligan is a director who shows things. Period. He doesn't not shows things, or like even if he's hiding things for later, if stuff is happening, it's actively shown. He does that. This is his style. It always has been. He shows an excessive amount of detail in everything, from the woman who gets on a plane to fly, that crazy long, weird intro scene that goes fucking nowhere. All of this shit, the detail is insane, Yet all of the things and I've got a lot more to ask, but like, where's the memory stored? We don't know. Okay. We know enough to what? To not know anything. Because again, okay.
I disagree. I think we are shown enough to know, for example, that despite the high level of seductiveness by the many vis-a-vis, like from Carol's perspective, we know that a lot of that is untrue. So, for example, someone in chat asks, animals are not part of the hive mind. It's explicitly showed in the show. No, it's not explicitly showed.
I think it is actually.
What you were shown in the show is that an animal begins the infection. And then following that, we see animals behave in such a manner as they appear to not be assimilated. But I don't think there's any particular reason to think that animals would not be assimilated in that way. I don't think there's any particular reason to think, and that would probably actually explain why they are very specifically not concerned, for instance, with large numbers of human beings dying incidentally because it's unavoidable, because it was a random incident, but also why they are averse to harming animals, because to do so would harm themselves.
But
they are actually mum about the reason.
But as you can see in chat, everyone's giving explanations that don't work at all in the show. None of these, we could go through them. None of these explanations work in the show. My question is, why does she kiss him?
Because it's the easiest way to infect another body.
Wait. So she knows her saliva infects people.
Yes.
How does the mouse know that? People who bite to infect. Does the mouse have magical knowledge that it was trying to infect her?
No, because whatever they injected it with generated a thing that had that imperative already built into it.
It had the imperative to bite.
Had the imperative to spread. Could recognize intelligently that it was able to bite.
Okay, so you're actually thinking there is
the mouse
secondary consciousness in the mouse.
I think the consciousness of the mouse, whatever was there, was completely taken over by something else.
Okay, so DNA has memories.
DNA doesn't have memories, but perhaps, for example, something was grown because they did something else that our science can't comprehend through a particular arrangement. Yeah.
So the hive mind.
They sent instructions that do things that we don't understand.
That's fine. You think that. That's not in the show.
I think it's left open. I think
it is left open, but that is not in the show. That is not a thing that is explained or said in any capacity in the show.
No, it doesn't have to be. They don't actually explain specifically the mechanism by which the infection takes place. We only know the way in which they got the information to create the thing that they did.
They show the process. The DNA.
They show the process of transmission. They don't show the process of transformation. We don't see that. We see a mouse go into a seizure state, and then it leaps to life at the moment of opportunity and bites a scientist.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the strategic, the timing.
And
of
so
that,
the scientist knows that they then can kiss to spread the thing.
I think whatever infected the scientist knows that they can exchange bodily fluids.
Again, so the idea from the beginning is that the DNA has a consciousness.
Yes. No. The DNA produced some other life form that coexists with whatever it infects, and it has the consciousness. That's what I think. Something like that. And it's possible they botched the delivery of that information, or stuff is just not being explained, but I think that's essentially what's going on. They introduced something that does more than they thought it did. That was more than they thought it did. It wasn't simply DNA.
So, is this going to be most of my questions are going to be followed by things that are not in the show?
Because this stuff isn't. It
isn't in the show. You're answering it as it's possibly these things, but again,
yeah. I don't think it's been fully explained. We've only seen the transmission. We have not actually seen the mechanism by which it was transmitted.
All the questions I'm going to have are going to be able to be said. We don't know yet
in season 2. Yeah, sure.
All right, so
we don't know. We don't know. I think we don't know a lot.
What kind of military base would have no protocols for infection? We see that they're on a military. No, we see they're on a military base.
Yeah.
Right? And that they're doing this stuff. And again, post-COVID, sure, yes. In 2026, I think at what point do you pull someone out and have them and wash their suit before bringing them back out fully from quarantine?
I think it's very possible, given the fact
And no one
that
else
this
is there.
is dealing with. No, I understand, but I have a feeling that there was a general lack of concern about this. They were more excited about. There was a naivete, and like we're not talking about a situation where it's like, oh, the government has decided we are being invaded by aliens. Like, no, it's a bunch of science nerds are excited
in a
about
military
seizing
base
the thing,
dealing with
Yeah.
what is clearly being considered a highly infectious whatever the fuck.
I don't think it is. I think the protocol actually
They
is what puts all
literally-
the mice into. I think the protocol is what puts all of the mice into those containers, and I don't think they were necessarily thinking in terms of some like massive disease thing. I think they were following protocol, but I think they had too much faith in that just simply solving it. And I think they put too much, like, because they didn't have like a firm notion that this thing is like viscerally dangerous. When somebody was like potentially harmed, the person who was working with her prioritized her safety over that of anybody else who could be infected afterwards. I think it's just basic human arrogance and error. I don't think there's any inconsistency.
It's a lot of layers of that, but sure. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. Speaking of the mouse bite, we later hear that consent is the most important thing to them. How have they demonstrated that in any capacity?
Their notion of consent is perverse and is derived from a combination of consciousnesses that are actually themselves the amalgam of a whole lot of human beings that actually don't believe in consent. Because, like, you're dealing like the first, I think it's very instructive, and I think this is, to your point, I think Gilligan shows this. The first infection is a bite. It's the most invasive thing possible.
I would argue that also the kisses, as people recoil away from them, there's kind of a funny, weird way.
Well, they don't violate the skin barrier is the point. There seems to be like a change in degree. They don't bite the next person. They kiss the next person. Then they don't kiss the next person. They lick their food, right? And it seems to be going in that direction. The fact they lick their food, by the way, is very instructive.
They do try to kiss Carol, and they do kiss a lot of people. Actually, they lick the food, but again, consent has nothing to do with any of these things. It's quite the opposite.
Well, I think you're actually highlighting something very interesting. I think very important, because I think Gilligan also is showing this deliberately. Carol is not assimilated, despite the fact that she has kissed people who are infected, which means what is being transmitted is.
Who did she kiss that was infected?
Soja, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But she was kissed also earlier. Okay.
Yeah. So the major conflict in the story is that she seems to be like immune, and so the question is like, how do you overcome that immunity? Consent only matters once you're in a non-bodily relationship with the many, right?
Sure, but the idea that for them, the violation of this, which is basically eliminating the consciousness of someone else through poisoning, is somehow fine, but picking an apple isn't.
Well, you're presuming that the issue with consent has to do with consciousness, and not maybe something flat.
I'm assuming not consciousness also in that. Like,
sure, but like
they poison a person versus picking an apple.
Well, hang on, slow down, cowboy. Do they poison a person?
They poison every person. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, but are they? What is a person? What is a person though?
Are you fucking kidding me?
Nope. I'm asking you very straightly. What is a person?
Every human body. That is what poisoning is.
Is
the introduction of foreign substances to a body. That is what poisoning is.
A body's not a person. A body's not a person. A person is the social presentation that is representing a body, and that can be an individual human body, as in you and me, but it can also be like a corporation of them.
No, they actually very much talk about this, and they say specifically the human body they don't want to invade, and they go over this and they talk about this. I
agree with you. That's what I'm saying.
No, they actually outline this for Carol, where they're talking about how we've got her eggs, but we're going to be able to destroy her eggs, which is to me hilarious. Like, as a weird turn where it's like, they don't give a fuck about consent when it comes to like kissing or bodily violations of fluids, which is super rapey. But at the same time, they're totally somehow care less about life than the Christians who hate abortion. And they're like, yeah, we'll destroy eggs. We don't give a fuck about destroying the eggs. I find that weird.
Well, because eggs aren't self-sufficient in that way. They still require implantation in order to become individual organisms, right? But like
By that
I
logic, flowering plants and fruit aren't self-sufficient and they should be eaten in order to propagate them. And by not eating them, they're actually ruining future life. So why aren't they eating fruit and picking it? Like it's
well, because the way humans digest these, and possibly a part of the reason why they're not super concerned about the starvation of humans, the way humans digest these doesn't necessarily reintroduce them back into circulation. They go into like facilities that then essentially pile them up elsewhere where they won't grow. Right?
like
Now, there's solutions they could take to that.
grinding up and eating humans, for example.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah, because they're dead.
Yeah, there's no harm from humans eating humans that we've been able to experience and understand medically, and that people wouldn't be warning against significantly inside of that hive mind.
Possibly, but it might speak to the fact that their internal physiology has actually changed so radically. Like maybe they aren't vulnerable to that anymore.
So again, the answer is magic.
No,
it's magic.
no. The answer is alien technology, which is literally what this is about.
Yes, but again, we've already understood it's not alien technology.
But it is very much alien technology.
No, because we built it. The code came from external.
We followed instructions.
Sure, but
Yes,
that's not
but
alien tech.
we don't know if the instructions do things that we wouldn't anticipate based on our limited understanding of how stuff works. But moreover,
Well, I mean, it did make us all
consent,
psychic. To be fair, it did make us all psychic.
I don't think it did. I think going back to the issue of, I think that's the.
It didn't make everyone psychic, but she says, "I really like train signals," and then the train whistle goes off. That's not a psychic connection at all.
No, I don't think it's a psychic connection at all.
How? Because they explain it as electromagnetic waves.
Yeah, sure, but like whatever that means, they also say they don't fully understand it themselves. Which means it's possible that, given the fact that they are an aggregate of all human minds and all human memories, because human memory doesn't have the capacity to understand this, they also don't, right? And like I think, sorry, going back to the consent thing, I think this is actually very interesting because their notion of what separates one thing from another doesn't seem to be the sort of the limits of one individual's conscious experience and another's. It seems to be biological receptivity to the infection. And so they treat things that are not biologically
I'm going to
receptive
disagree here.
as separate entities.
They show us that people who've never done things before can do everything any other person can do. That knowledge is totally shared between everyone.
Memory is.
Knowledge.
Memory is shared, yes.
Knowledge.
Memory is shared.
Knowledge.
Memory.
Sure.
What is knowledge?
Sure, memory, fine, that's fine. Apparently it's in DNA now, so whatever it was, that's in the show.
Well, we don't know if it's in the we don't know if it's in the DNA. Like it's probably something that exists.
No, the DNA that drives them to do the things that makes them go, oh, this is clearly how it spreads. Somehow they have the knowledge.
But the drive and whatever crude intelligence it has at the immediate like start of the infection doesn't necessarily relate to the way in which it transmits knowledge. That those could be separate things.
What?
Those could be separate things. Like the way in which it gets this imperative to infect may exist on a different like order than the way in which it transmits information between humans. In fact, if it were infecting another life form, it may not even have the capacity to transmit that information.
So let's move beyond direct nitpicks, because clearly that's not going to be it. The reason these are issues for me is because the show makes these specific issues their ethical claims, the things they do, the center of major things throughout the show. So you have things like she goes to the store, they've centralized all the food for some reason, somehow, some way.
I don't think they centralized it because they
she
seem
says
to have,
expressly
for example,
that's the word she used, that they centralized.
Yeah, but they didn't centralize it into one place. They centralized it locally. So they put all of their foodstuffs into a single plant to be turned into a single product.
But they didn't do that.
More efficiently spread. But they did, because we find in the facility with the human body parts, we also find fruits and vegetables.
Right. But again, they didn't do that because, and we know this because when she goes to Sprouts and she says, I want my food back, there are 12 trucks filled with people and food, perishables, waiting.
Yeah.
That were sitting there.
Well, no, they weren't sitting there. They were probably still in the trucks. They were probably mid-transit.
They were, okay.
They probably diverted a bunch of trucks that were already moving that
So
hadn't dropped
they
it
were-
off yet, so they go back.
They were
This was earlier, remember?
less than a block away when she called. They pulled into the parking lot the next moment.
Do we know it was the next moment, or was
Yes,
that
we
just
do.
how the TV
Specifically,
presented it?
no, we specifically know because they also do the thing where after they show up, they have the time run forward. So yes, we know exactly how long it was because she was on the phone, turns around, walks outside, and the trucks start pulling up with all of this food, and people in them are just sitting in them. They have people sitting in them, waiting for her to do a thing. And again,
Well,
it's because it's a cool visual, and they didn't care. And they know people don't. They know people don't.
I disagree. Like, yeah, it is a cool visual, and maybe that was fine for them, like not over explaining, not bothering to explain this, but like it's perfectly plausible that they had left actually fairly recently, and that indeed because they were not just centralizing resources, but also sort of necessarily as a consequence of that, also centralizing people so they can make the most efficient use of those resources. They may have literally all been actually in that truck.
Sure, except for all the people who also walked around from outside who were just waiting for this.
Sure.
And apparently not where food is. So people don't need food. Well, I mean, they were by the Sprouts where there's no food. Well,
we don't know what they were doing by the Sprouts, right? Like, for example, suppose hypothetically that there are other grocery stores besides the Sprouts in her region. And maybe they were also collecting food
the answer
from nearby.
is magic.
No.
Yeah, it's Deus Ex Machina. That's all that is.
But it's not, because it's
the director's going to tell us otherwise.
Well, no,
it's
they
fine.
didn't give us an explanation of what was going on that would preclude anything that I'm talking about. So it's perfectly within the realm of viability. When you're talking about a plot hole, you're talking about an inconsistency that stands in need of an explanation. This isn't an inconsistency. This appears unlikely to us, which is fair. It does, but I don't think that this seemed plausible.
This seemed stupid to me. Like all of these things aren't to me plot holes or things to look forward to. They're embarrassing. That's the reason I didn't care for the show. Because again, Vince doesn't do this. This ain't his jam. He will hint or put other things around it to show and signify that he knows this is weird and that there's an unreliable narrator or that some other thing is happening. But the moment that you do these things and you start explaining stuff to this degree, when the answer is, I don't know, some other reason. We turn off all the power at night in the entire city except for where you live, Carol, because we don't need it. Yeah. So people sleep, which I think is probably healthy, except for the buildings that Carol goes to, and except for the refrigerators that she goes to and that we see, and also the refrigeration that we see, and all those other things. Yeah. That's where we keep power running, except we shut it off the entire grid. Because again,
here's the thing. Well, hang on though. It's not that simple because these places also have their own off-grid power sources. That's how in the event of a power outage, all their food doesn't go bad, right?
Yeah,
every single grocery store you go to will have its own generator.
40 days. They're gas powered.
It doesn't have to last 40 days. It has to live however long the night is before the lights turn back on. Right? They probably keep power to the fridges on. They probably
that
turn
is
off all the lights
actually not how this works. That's actually not how this works. No. Okay.
Well,
backup power doesn't work like that.
Well, it doesn't work like that.
We live there.
No, I understand. It doesn't work like that. No, it doesn't work like that right now, but now suppose you have, for example, the collective labor power and expertise of every single human on the planet. You can change how that works with some degree of efficiency, I would imagine.
Not within 20 days.
I imagine you probably could within 20 days. You have literally every body on the planet. You could deploy literally the resources of the entire world to restructuring whatever you need to.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't see any reason to think that they couldn't. They also don't seem to be averse to squandering, for example. They're averse to violating in very peculiar conditions, but they don't seem to be averse to squander. They aren't upset, for example, when Carol gets upset at them and many of their bodies die. That seems to be an acceptable loss. In fact, they only seem to take an issue with it, interestingly enough, when Carol violates the bodily barrier of one of them and injects a truth serum into their bloodstream.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
if at some point Pluribus will be done, and maybe all of it will be explained in satisfying ways. For me, when you open with details of our world, and this is the thing I mentioned, and I told you I was going to be talking about extra science fiction, which is Melisau's amazing work on kind of what it means to be making science fiction. The whole point of him doing, and so it's a really interesting it's a worthwhile read, because how he sort of talks about it is there's multiple types of worlds in the worlds of science fiction. Three-body problem, for example, is an important step for him. In this show specifically, there is no reason to believe anything that's happening is outside of our science, because everything that happens necessarily stems from our science. Now, misunderstandings of what happens or whatever, but there is no fifth rail of DNA. There is no magic version of DNA. There is no alien gun or alien weapon that showed up.
Slow down, cowboy, because there might be if there were scientists left. But one of the key parts that they mention early on is that there are no scientists left, which means for anybody who would be in a place of technical know-how to identify if there's something new isn't present. This is one of the things that the three-body problem has. It's a story about physicists and scientists who have been trained to have an eye for, like, when is something spooky or weird happening that is not accounted for by current theory. That doesn't exist here. Instead, you have a fantasy writer, a cook, some billionaire playboy guy, and I guess he's not a billionaire playboy guy because this is all new for him. Some
Okay,
asshole.
so
I think
now,
that the consent question is more interesting on that angle.
So now the knowledge or memories that make them kiss in order to spread it also made them get rid of scientists. They were aware enough to get rid of scientists.
No, they assimilated all the scientists, and we don't have the information of what they know. We are revealed to that in bits as Carol learns.
Okay.
She is not a scientist. None of them are scientists.
We watch them synthesize and go through the entire process that makes this thing.
Yeah. Well, we don't see the entire process.
We do.
See the
we
externals.
literally see every
see what
single
they
step.
see. No, we see what they see. We don't see every single step. We don't know, for example, what biological changes were happening inside the mouse. We don't know what kind of changes those were. We don't know what was happening in the transition from mouse to human. We have no idea. This is all completely opaque to us. And as it happens, like, just because everybody was assimilated except for a handful, by sheer statistical, like, luck, just none of them were scientists. So we don't have a lens, a scientific lens through which to even see this, because none of these people have the wherewithal to, like, do this.
Right.
But, except for what's his face.
The DNA that was injected was 100% within the capabilities of the scientists who made it and the people who made it. There's no magic technology.
To create it was, in terms of understanding the things it can do, maybe not.
Okay.
And that's the thing. It's like we don't know. We don't know what they were doing. They knew how to follow the instructions to actualize something. We don't necessarily know that they know exactly what it is that they actualized, right?
Well, see, and this is, for me, I consider these things self-contradictory to a point where it pulls me so far out of the show. Like, and again, you can hand wave and go, hey, there's probably an explanation. I don't like probable explanations. It's not how I've ever enjoyed science fiction at all. And compare it to Three-Body Problem, which does not do this. It explicitly is like, hey, something's wrong. We don't know why. Scientists are spoilers. Scientists are killing themselves. They can't handle this. What the fuck? And it's this underlying, there is a science so big that it breaks our science kind of mentality. There is an extra science of the thing that's happening. This being part and parcel of Three-Body Problem, and it is kind of super important to understand that it's the limitations of our own understandings of our science and the measurement and how we do it. And then that those things can be fucked with because of, super science or whatever the fuck we end up calling it. Mm-hmm. That thing, you could argue at some level that this might be happening, but everything we see in the show is man-made, man-done. And there isn't a hint that anything
there's the rub, though.
But there's
everything we see.
Right, but it's an entire season where they don't show any of those things. And if they decide later to retroactively add it, there's no hint towards anything like that.
I don't think they need to. I think the ignorance of the audience is perfectly fine to sustain. I think the issue here is that the point of the show doesn't actually require them to expose the actual mechanism necessarily.
But they did.
It just needs to, but they didn't though. They showed a vector. Showing a vector is not showing the full like actuality of the mechanism. Showing the fact that a bite took place does not tell you if it was a virus, doesn't tell you if it was bacteria, doesn't tell you if it was a little robot, doesn't tell you anything. All we know is something bit something. We don't know if it literally created, as you said with midichlorians, a little samurai that built a little nanomachine that then did the infecting. We don't know.
And again, this goes to the place where it's like, okay, DNA that is a virus, we know what a virus is. DNA doesn't just become a virus.
I agree.
So
So maybe something else is going on.
Well, that would
maybe something else is going on.
So then it's, again, something. And again, the level of detail that was put into all of these explanations all the way through is the challenge. And this goes all the way through. When she makes the comment, they're standing on the cliffside. Thing that really, really sort of pissed me off. There's a scene with the train. And it's kind of this weird sort of, I don't know, paradox of how she talks about herself, that she says that, one sec, I have it written down. I want to get the exact wording, because she says that the system that they are not conscious. It's more like breathing. It is homeostatic. She uses this term. Yet this homeostatic system immediately follows that by making the train whistle, which is a contradiction. Because it's a directed action in order to accomplish a goal versus a homeostatic. That's not the same thing. These don't work as a thing. They're able to rebuild Carol's diner from memory towards an end and a goal. This is not homeostatic.
I think the contradiction between their attitudes towards consent and their willingness to override that consent using someone's eggs, for example, speaks to a way in which they handle that inconsistency. And I think one of the major themes of the show has to do with exactly that sort of ambiguity. So, for example, she asks them to come back, right? After they abandon her, after she poisons the Soja body. She paints a big sign on the lot in front of her house to please come back, right? Was that her freely asking them to come back? And I would say no, because they put her into a situation where she was extremely vulnerable, where she was dealing with immense isolation, and allowed her, knowing that they're observing her with drones, they allowed her to be essentially suicidal. And they waited for her to do that precisely so that she would be extremely vulnerable. I think it's actually highly manipulative and indeed like violation of consent. And I think a major part of the show is precisely dealing with the difference between a sort of formal adherence to a system of rules and adherence to the spirit of those rules if they were understood between two distinct parties as regulating behavior. And I think what's happening here is that while they don't seem to be able to lie, they also seem to be very willing to strategically use silence. And that can include, for example, gaps or word choices taken
and
using
again,
the excuse of like legibility.
I have
maybe?
questions, so many questions about the scene with the lying. I need to understand. You can explain this to me. How is it a test for lying in any capacity? Did you like my book? It's weird to me. It was I didn't like the writing of the scene. I thought it was stupid on its face, but the idea, like, did you like the book? No, actually, Carol, we have 7 billion people who are part of us. Your book is so insignificant. We have no fucking idea, but somehow they've been able to share the book and everyone likes it. Despite
I don't think it necessarily is a valid proof. So, for example, if you wanted to make somebody vulnerable and to break down their,
you'd lie.
They're like, well, let me finish. I think if, for example, somebody was holding on to the rage of a loved one in order to maintain their defiance, making them question the nature of that relationship by, say, planting a listening device into their liquor cabinet and insinuating that it was hers, or telling her that actually she was telling you a lie and she didn't actually like your writing, that would do a lot in order to break down that person's resistance. And I think one of the interesting things about this is that the many is simultaneously...
I thought the thing in the liquor cabinet was from before. It was for testing alcohol. Like, they have alcohol. We are aware that they have a drinking problem.
They say that it was put there by her wife. She has no proof that it was put there by her wife.
Okay, fair. Fair.
And I think what's very important about this story is that it puts you into the, and I think this is one of the reasons why I think like gaps in the explanations, which are not contradictions, the gaps are really important, because it's specifically talking about how you can be abused into seeming to give your consent. And I think what's very interesting about this entire thing is like it actually allows for there to be total ambiguity. Like, are they manipulating you, or is this just a system dynamic that manipulates you of its own accord? Is this deliberate or is it not? Does the difference matter? And I think what's very interesting about the relationship between Carol and the many is that Carol actually manages to be framed as the abuser for a good part of the story. And I think this is maybe a big part of like where your objection to the ethics of the story come from, because it makes her seem like the bad guy, but she is being heavily manipulated, and or the very powerful potential for incidental manipulation is not being taken into account at all by the other thing. Yeah.
That makes this interesting and could be interesting if they ever did anything with that in any capacity that showed there was even a hint of that. Instead, it is taken full straight up throughout the entire season that, they don't lie. And that scene proved it. And that becomes like a settled thing. We can debate whether or not that's accurate. Internal to the show, there's no reason to doubt. That's the end of it. Carol takes it as truth.
I disagree.
The guy who comes running in says it too. They can't lie. These are their things. This is what they do. But again, I'd ask.
But here's the catch, though.
When she says everyone loved your books, they didn't. Most people didn't like her books. So how does that work?
Well, there's two angles to this. The first is that with respect to they don't lie. I don't think we have proof that they don't lie. I think the appearance of not being able to lie is a massively powerful tool if you are trying to deceive at a grander scale and for longer.
If you're a con man, yes, it's a huge deal.
Right. So now let's assume that this has assimilated the knowledge of every single con man and abuser on the planet. Set that aside. The other part is there is no they, it is just one, and it assimilates the most intense emotions of every single person to every single thing. And so while it trivially is aware when asked that her wife did not like her books, it loves her books because at least one person was for at least one person that was their saving grace, right?
So then I would ask, by that logic, and this is the logic I assume, because that's kind of how it plays out before, that there is a emotive immediate response, and this like at large in some capacity. When Carol is telling her new story to Zosia, and Zosia is excited to hear it and says wrong things, asks questions, and is so jazzed to hear about a new book.
Yes.
That would be its emotions.
You're making an assumption. And I think it's very interesting that you're making this assumption.
I'm making an assumption. What is it?
You're making an assumption. You are assuming that when we see human bodies in spasms because she gave them an emotional response, them freezing up and being unable to talk.
No,
them creating a perception.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when she's happy.
I wasn't finished.
Okay.
And them likewise being ecstatic for what she does, what she loves to do, what is part of her identity. That is not a show that is being put on for her. Once again, like we are presuming that instinctive reaction by the whole thing at once is in fact what's being, but we are only seeing this through Carol's eyes. We are as ignorant as she is. Like, here's a question for you. How many survivors were there? How many people were not infected?
Tons.
Tons? Like how many? Give me a ballpark.
I have no idea. The show doesn't really say.
10? More than 10?
Oh God, more than 10.
Okay, let's say more than 10. How do you know?
Because there's a lot of people who live in places that wouldn't have been infected in ways.
But here's the thing, though. No, everybody was infected. Remember, they sprayed it in the air. Everybody globally has been infected. That's what we've been told, right?
Sure. And we've seen it through them flying and showing us everywhere. But again, people live in places that wouldn't have been.
How do you know?
How do you know what?
How do you know that there was anybody else besides Carol who wasn't infected?
Well, we know there were. We actually meet them. We talk to them.
Do we? Ooh,
Yes.
ooh, careful. Did we? See, when I think of, oh, here is a being that can embody any persona on Earth, their language, their
Okay,
behavior, their
so
memories.
is
Hang
your
on.
argument just going to be literally everything that we saw that wasn't Carol could just be made up in a lie?
Yes, because I think that's the major point of the story, is that the limited vantage point of that person makes you vulnerable to manipulation. You don't know if it's the truth. I think that's actually a major part of it.
Okay. That's
And I think like when you're dealing with, oh, there are all of these people who are creating different parallel structures that are enforcing Carol, pushing her to submit to it. I think that's perfectly valid, and I think it plays with the audience's paranoia. I think it plays on her paranoia, and I think it's a major part because that limited level of knowledge is super important.
So again, if you're going to talk about that, I agree to a point, but this is where we start talking about Vince's works. His thing, his sci-fi thing is the paranoia of the singular and the exploration of that. That's almost every one of his X-File episodes is about the person who's not believed. It's one of the reasons he fit in with Chris Carter. It's why Mulder was his sort of focus with things. It's constantly driving towards this. It's always there's something I can't prove, but I believe it kind of stuff running through his stuff. How he goes about that and how he tells that story isn't the same as this. If this is, hey, nothing can be known or something can be known, then we just watched an entire story arc and character arc where nothing happened.
That's not true.
She's in the house at the end with an atom bomb. Nothing happened.
Yeah. What is the atom bomb?
I have no idea.
What is the purpose to having the atom bomb there?
I have no fucking clue.
The purpose to having the atom bomb there is do not approach me or else I will set up the atom bomb.
Yeah, but it probably doesn't work.
We don't know. Maybe
Right.
It does work. Maybe it doesn't. Yeah. Okay.
Probably doesn't.
Okay.
Or it
but
does. Or it's like a party.
What is
There's
happened?
an alien who's
Hang
going to
on.
jump out of a cake.
No. You're thinking about this like crudely. The point of the story is not to show like the dynamics of an alien virus. The purpose of the story is to use that as a vehicle for how people can be pressured into conformity and into giving up their identity through measures that are not as simple as like what happens in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where they come up and they suck you in. That part is sort of a vehicle for getting to that point. But a major part of what it's doing is it's showing the process of encountering something that gives you all of the best reasons to believe it, all of the reasons to think that you are the bad guy for not conforming to it, and how that can like completely manipulate you and override your agency and your individuality and freedom. And how, for example, trust is ultimately broken because it is discovered by her that there are like things that she is not being told. There is deception by withholding things.
Sure.
And the strategy for maintaining trust with it to make her more vulnerable and to not just turn her violent, is specifically to make her believe that they have to tell her the truth, so they reveal things.
Then I would argue if this is the thing, it's a 2 out of 10 for me. Because it's far worse and doesn't do this. I found none of this to be the case. I've never found myself in that paranoiac position. I found myself questioning constantly their silly, weird rules and how they were set up, how all their decisions almost made no sense, how the idea that this beam that is clearly making entire worlds die off, or the sentient species that just happens to have exactly our DNA code and just happens to be exactly involved in exactly the way that humans are, in a very particular way, which, I'll forgive that. That's annoying. But it just so happens to make us completely impotent and kill everyone off.
The Sophons in the 3-body problem could do that. No problem, right? They would get all that information.
Okay.
Like we're assuming a level of transparency here that would be entirely in defiance of the point of the story. That opaqueness is kind of critical to it.
But they're not opaque about it, is my point.
But you don't know that, though. Like, you genuinely don't know that. You're running off of the assumption, because of what this director has done in the past, that therefore he's incapable of deliberately, for example, diverting course to confuse you. Maybe you're falling for the same thing Carol is in the mid.
No, it's a bad show. It's a bad show, and none of this is going to be how they handle it. They've outright.
Well, you don't
said,
know that.
Sure, I do.
We have no idea where it's going to go. It's one season.
We actually do. He's actually said that the origin of the signal will never matter and will never be brought up.
I mean, I agree with this. I agree with that.
So
the origin of the signal doesn't matter. Like, for example, this could be something sent by a long dead civilization that just replicates and then shoots itself off. Like, there's no reason to think that there is like an agency above it. All we know is that
but they're not replicating that agent. They're not replicating.
They are deliberate. They say explicitly they intend to deliberately like rebuild it and shoot it off elsewhere to share it.
Yes.
Yeah. Remember where that happens?
But it will kill everyone on Earth.
No, it won't. Why would they kill everyone on Earth?
There's no food.
No, there's not enough food to sustain the current population. There's absolutely food. Among other things, there are humans for food if it comes to it. There's tons of food. They have food. They don't have enough food to maintain a population of billions. But they absolutely do have enough food to maintain a population of a few thousand. Actually, quite a bit more than that.
There is probably nothing I hate more than the idea that what we're watching is something that's a joke on the audience.
I don't think it's a joke on the audience.
If what we're seeing is all a lie, if it turns out to be all a dream and it's some autistic kid
I don't think it's all a lie.
I
don't think it's all a lie. I don't think it's all a dream. I think the point precisely is that you can't tell. And all of the arguments that are being given to you are perfectly reasonable, and yet you still can't tell.
I don't think they're reasonable, though. I don't think Carol does either. Reasonable. There's nothing reasonable that they're talking about.
Well, hang on. What do you mean? Like, what Carol doesn't think is reasonable is sort of
because
Carol herself is inconsistent. Carol herself is inconsistent.
I am saying the things that these aliens say are in themselves the dumbest shit. Well, we won't pick fruit. The literal life cycle of fruit is to be picked, shit out, and replanted. And are you going to let all of those trees die? Yes, we are. We don't give a fuck.
What is the context in which that takes place?
The context in which eating takes place?
The context in which that revelation takes place in the narrative. Where are they?
Where are they, Sunday? Tell me. I remember it most being noticed at Sprouts when she realizes there's no food.
Who is
That's
she
when
talking
I think
to?
She learned about it.
Who is she talking to when it is revealed what they are doing with the food?
Oh, fuck. Shithead, the guy who's doing the jokes from Rick and Morty. That's Rick and Morty, right? Rick does the thing with Unity. I'm going to fuck all these people. I'm going to live in the biggest house. He's just stealing that and doing that thing, right? The guy who lives in Vegas.
You could have just said that. You could have just said the French guy.
Is he French?
Is he French? I don't know. I thought he was French. Maybe
it's Rick and Morty guy. He's the Rick and Morty guy. It's a terrible.
Okay, we'll call him the Rick and Morty guy. She's talking to the Rick and Morty guy, right?
Yeah.
Right. The Rick and Morty guy pulls up a TV and up shows John Cena, who's
no. He explains that. I'm not talking about that they're eating dead bodies. I'm saying when she learns that they don't eat and they won't pick food, there's food everywhere.
Yeah.
Why? The life cycle of plants literally is to be consumed.
Sure, but like here's the catch though. Is that something that they acknowledge? Like, do they care about the relationship between the waste and the life cycle, or do they care about, for example, violating the borders of a system? Because, for example, my nails fall off. I would not be very happy if someone ripped my nails off, right?
This is my favorite part. So, okay, earlier you made a really strong argument about how the violation of a person doesn't matter to them because they are a larger system. Then when I say, well, wait, the entirety of the ecosystem that is a tree is not just the body of the tree.
My nails don't fall off. Sorry, I trim my nails and they come off. There's a difference. Sorry. Your nails actually always do fall off. They wear down when you like work with them and whatnot. But go on.
Don't use the term fall off.
I know it's just
that's a really gross, horrifying thing. If you've never had a nail pulled off or like
my nails do not fall off, but particles from
Sunday
your body
has
fall
leprosy.
off all the time.
Sunday has leprosy, and we're working on it.
I mean, look at my pallor right now. I mean, as well. So
they think systemically. They do blah blah blah. All of that. They're at large. A tree with fruit needs fruit to be eaten. Otherwise, that fruit falls literally where it is, and it's rotting. So you need to pick it. And again, we've built entire ecosystems of trees that require this. So like, this is where this, again, either they see we're part of this larger thing. We don't want to interrupt the larger setup, or yes, we actually are separate from all this.
Do you ever see the collection of bodies?
I mean, you see arms and legs and shit.
You do. Do you ever see the collection though?
I don't know.
So recall that I put it into question.
They did the whole Holocaust thing, which I thought was that was like weird. Where they're like,
hang on,
trains.
Hang on. Let me get somewhere.
All right.
Okay. I called into question whether or not the impression that they could not lie was not itself part of a larger pattern of deception. Is it conceivable that the story about them not picking fruit is untrue?
Oh no. Look, if the answer is maybe they lie, I hate the show even more. Like, just flatly. If you want to go there.
But hang on.
So much
why
worse.
Though? But why?
Why? Because
abusers
Carol
can lie. Abusers can lie.
Because Carol lies, and we know she lies about her past and other things. So we don't have a reliable narrative. So we literally don't know anything that's ever happening in this show or anyone's motivations. There's no character arcs we can justify. There's nothing we can follow. Who gives a fuck? That would be my response.
But there is nothing we can follow because Carol herself is dishonest. And
I agree.
Does lie to herself.
So there's nothing in the show. So nothing in the show matters.
But that makes the real world, Brooks. That's how life is.
No.
That's how people are.
No, I mean, no. People have billions of things they do, and shows are not the real world for a reason.
People manipulate.
Shows are real.
And they deceive.
Shows are what they are for a reason. Stories exist for what they are for a reason. Even unconventional, odd stories that play into things that do weird shit.
I didn't realize you were a teleologist when it came to TV.
When it comes to, hey, I'm reading a story or I'm watching a show, I expect at some level to be able to interpret what I'm seeing. And if the answer is you can't, I don't give a fuck anymore.
What if the point?
People
who
do Jackson Pollock paintings can be actually looked at, and you can know you're looking at them.
Well, yes, but also a Jackson Pollock painting works specifically by producing the appearance of an image from things that are absolutely not under a microscope in any way.
Yes,
even
but
at the level that the individual stroke,
I can still trust my lying eyes.
Being shown to you.
And when we have people who do the opposite and say, hey, maybe none of it's true the entire season.
Okay.
And we can say, hey, by the way, I can name a show where they did it well, From, which is kind of like almost a Lost-like show where these people show up in a town. Everyone's kind of lying. No one really knows what's happening. From's great. From is very enjoyable.
The difference between this and Lost, though, is that Lost over-explained to get to a conclusion. This has under-explained, but it hasn't arrived at a conclusion yet. It's presenting you with a problem. And I think the major problem it's showing you is precisely that. Deception and so on and so forth can take place even within these parameters. And it's highlighting like that relationship, especially when you have, for example, a one-sided relationship where one side has almost total control of the environment and can set the stage and the other one can't, right? And that's our position as individual humans in culture generally. And I think that's very interesting. I think the purpose of the show is to showcase that relationship. And I think it does so very well. I think the fact that by the end of it, you are actually unclear as to whether or not Carol, for example, is in the wrong or in the right, I think is very interesting. And I think that's what makes it worth watching.
I literally have no idea what she's right or wrong about. Can you tell me?
Yeah.
What's she in the right about or wrong about? What's the thing? What's the moral?
She is presented with a choice that is not a choice. And the choice that is not a choice is this. You can give up your current way of life, and in exchange there is something that we promise, despite all appearances that you may have, is so much more amazing than anything you can imagine.
She hasn't been given the choice yet.
Well, that's why I called it a choice that was not a choice. I chose those words carefully.
But there's no choice.
But there is a choice, because at any point she could just, for example, offer to give them access to her bone marrow, right?
Maybe.
So it's a choice, it's not a choice, because they're still seeking those without her consent.
And then they're going to change her anyway without her consent.
Yes, I agree. That's
Right.
that's
So
that's
there's no
literally
choice.
the arc of the story.
Right, so there's no choice.
That's why I said, if you'll recall 5 seconds ago, a choice without a choice, right? So
Yeah.
she's being given an option that
Okay.
they will take for her in time. There is a choice without a choice.
This
It's
is the one.
manipulative.
This is the one thing in the show I assumed was like them lying. Like this
Why?
is why?
Yeah, they
Well, I mean,
like-
this is the other part is I don't understand why they don't just kill her. I literally have no concept of why they don't just kill her and anyone else who survived and be done.
very easy. That's easy to understand. If they don't care about individual bodies because all of the memories are collected within the unimind, then there is no value in eliminating diversity. They want to assimilate it. They are greedy for any new piece of information.
Okay.
I might actually also answer your question as to why they're excited about her writing a book, because they have no capacity for the production of new things because they are all already fully assimilated to each other.
And so they want
so
to
even if it's-
destroy their capacity for new that they're excited about.
They don't want to destroy their capacity for new. After assimilating all of Earth, they now want to assimilate stuff that is outside of Earth, right? So they are. They
would not
endlessly
assimilate
greedy
any
for-
of that though.
But they would though.
How would they assimilate stuff outside of Earth? They explicitly talk about it there being a distance and electromagnetic shield,
Yes.
all this stuff.
Sure, but like people write books for people who are alive after they're dead in order to increase like a relationship of knowledge that outlives them and exists outside of their experience.
Man, it's a whole thing.
But once again, though, like there's like potentially 2 things going on. There is the drive to spread, and there is also the way in which their hive mind functions, and these may not be operating at the same level.
Sure. So let's grant all of this. At best, then, what we've got in a season is an intro to an interesting story. To me,
Yeah, season 1.
so no, an entire season should never just be an intro. Outer Limits.
Really? So you didn't? Well, that's what Breaking Bad was.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, 100% was.
There's
an intro. It
things
established the
happened in that
characters,
first
established
season.
Yeah,
There,
Yeah,
nothing
things happened
happened
in
in
this-
this one.
that's not true. Tons of stuff happened.
Name 2 things.
The character's relationship with the many developed, and you discovered a lot of things about it. That's what happened. In the season.
No. As you just said, we may not have discovered anything. We didn't discover anything. We learned what they said. So
You
nothing
mentioned in the
happened.
You mentioned the 3-body problem as an example.
Sure.
The first volume of the 3-body problem is exactly the same in this regard. It is entirely a process of human beings, or the protagonists, coming from one point of knowledge to a different point of knowledge.
I'm going to disagree heavily that this is comparable. I get that you can.
As someone who's like, one of my favorite novels is the Body Problem, I think they are eminently comparable. And stuff did happen in this season. Like a lot of stuff happened in this season. It wasn't like there weren't like explosions. It wasn't like there were big action scenes. It wasn't like, oh, the big cartel boss was beaten. But a lot of stuff happened. Just because it didn't happen at like the level of like factions rising and falling doesn't mean nothing happened. Different types of story.
The entire first season of Breaking Bad had entire arcs. The first
Mhm.
book had character arcs that will carry through, actually. There's no character arc for Carol. She didn't change.
The entire show is just her character arc.
What character?
There's
what
an
is her
immense
arc?
character arc.
Name one thing she changed.
Her arc is contempt for the average person, switching to contempt for
The average person.
everybody. No, not for the average person. You're not letting me finish my sentences here. The story starts off. She is a writer of material that she doesn't have a lot of respect for, and therefore she doesn't have respect for the people who consume it. She has this other secret novel that the one person she does have respect for gives her the impression of appreciating. But that's basically it. Now, flip side, the many, all of those people now assimilate that person as well, and it turns out she didn't like that book either. And so over the course of the next little bit, it's a matter of like, is her individuality based purely on a negative perception of other people, or is there actually something positive to it? And there are two major bumps along the way. The first is through sheer loneliness. She finds herself completely vulnerable to assimilation by the many anyways. And then afterwards, she reasserts her individuality again. because now the fact that choice has been reinforced as an illusion, and the fact that she was placed into that through
In that
her being
first
made vulnerable
episode,
through loneliness,
in that
and
first-
the fact that she has another like ally who is also someone who like who provides friction against her. It's like the end of Evangelion essentially. There's a deliberate choice of maintaining identity at the expense of the discomfort that comes from the loneliness of being apart. And
her character at the end is no different than the character early on. She may be in a relationship.
It's tremendously different.
She may be in a relationship. It is not. She is.
It is completely different.
Okay.
It's completely different.
Okay.
At the beginning of the story, her attitude is based on holding on to something that she thinks makes her better and distant from other people. In the end, she chooses to be distant from other people
by maintaining individuality, which she thinks makes her better and distant from other people. Better than
but you're flattening all the stuff and assimilating it to the formal like status of things, which is not great.
No, I'm talking about her dynamic in relationships too. Early on, she's got her wife that she is treating identically to how she treats Zosia later on. A thing that is
she doesn't treat her wife Zosia. She doesn't treat her wife the way she treats Zosia.
Sure, in any time that
her wife is her manager. Like her wife is her boss essentially.
Yes, and anytime her wife is very excited about what she's doing, she's happy, and every other time she's generally upset. When her wife is trying to correct her, you need to work on this other thing. We're looking at this. Oh, you can't. Yeah. She doesn't like it because she's kind of a bitch. To be frank, Carol's not very cool, and she's not very good writer. And she doesn't have an arc.
I don't think Carol's a bitch at all. She has a tremendous arc. See, there's a part of this whole story that you're kind of overlooking, and it's interesting that you haven't brought it up yet. This is very specifically not the first time Carol has been assimilated to a culture before. They bring up very specifically the fact that as a child she was put into a gay conversion camp. The fact that she's a lesbian is like a key part of this story. The fact that she is able to be openly a lesbian is a key part of the story. It's actually really important because the mirror is she has the independence of aversion and just treating other people as beneath her in the beginning. She has the independence of decision and agency at the end. They're radically different things.
What is her agency? How does her agency show at the end?
Her agency shows at the end because despite the fact that she has been manipulated to a point where she will basically almost be willing to give up her entire identity just to maintain that good feeling. And she did, by the way, even if she hadn't actually been assimilated in like the way that they wanted to, simply by giving in and just being friendly with these things and being essentially a servant to them. She chose in the end to just shut that off and go no contact in order to maintain her independence and her identity. And that's a completely different thing. That's the assertion of decision over vulnerability to community, right?
Fine.
Because here's the thing with the gay conversion camp, a major part of the story is that she hid the fact that the love interest in her novels was actually imagined as a woman. She was actually, in a certain sense, converted.
With the most woman-looking man on a cover that has ever existed.
Yeah, because they had to make I don't know.
It was pretty comedic.
There are men who look like that. There are cis men who look like that.
It looks like a woman with a mustache painted onto it. It's not good.
Careful.
I'm just saying,
there are.
Did you see the picture? It's really bad.
I did.
It made me chuckle. I was like, come on. This is the heartthrob on the cover of romance novels. I used to stock, when I worked at bookstores, I've stocked romance novels. This is like the drawings on like the locally printed ones. It was really weird. I found it very upsetting and like,
I have met cis men who look more feminine than I would say. I don't think that's I don't think the cover art is what it is. But I think moreover,
this is not even a trans comment. This isn't that. I'm not talking about the way that it's feminine.
I'm just saying be a little bit careful though, because sometimes that actually is not just how cis people look, it's also how trans men look. But besides leaving that aside,
isn't that. There's feminine people. It's a weird drawing.
I don't think it's a weird drawing. I think they did deliberately make the image resemble the woman they cast as Zosha, sure, but I don't think the image by itself is that weird. I've seen tons of cis men who look like that with the exact same facial hair too. They exist. That's a thing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and it is specifically supposed to look like a woman because, again, she is a lesbian. She is attracted to women, so it is a feminine-looking man. That's the point, right?
The cover's not for
Because she's
her.
attracted to femininity.
The cover's not for her.
Well, it kind of is, though, right?
No,
Like-
it's for people.
No, I understand that.
And
but
it,
like
and it
in
didn't.
the story,
it would have been
seems like
interesting. Would have been interesting is if her books turned out to have like a really unique. Hey, actually, they're into this oddly feminine guy who's characterized in this way, and it actually sort of does a gender bend in itself. They could have done anything with it. Instead, it's played so straight that it's like this is the most macho man. That they go out of their way to make this the case. It's like the most macho man who's ever been in romance novels.
Well, no, in
the perfect
writing,
man. This is what the people say, and there's nothing even ironic in that. It's not even written interestingly.
it's not supposed to be written interestingly. It's supposed to be a bad book. It's a bad romance story.
I'm talking about the show.
I think the show is written very well. But hey, I gotta go. I gotta go make dinner. So we're gonna.
All right, you do
we're
that.
gonna-
You do that.
We're gonna politely call it a draw, but I won.
That's fine. It's a terrible show, and
It's a
there's much
wonderful show.
better.
You should go
There's a
watch it.
million better hive mind things that exist out there. I brought up Theodore's Cosmic Rape, which is now called The Marriage to Medusa. Easily the best hive mind sci-fi book, and it's like 70 years old at this point. It's been done a billion times. There's nothing, again, it doesn't do anything new. If this is the direction, there's Star Trek episodes that do literally the same thing. And this is where I'm like, Vince Gilligan, with one of the biggest budgets he's ever been given, with some of the most talented actors, makes this. And I couldn't be more disappointed.
I think the biggest criticism I have for Pluribus is that with a cast of like 5 people, it's going to take them 3 years to make season 2. What the hell? That makes no sense to me. Anywho, who are we rating?
I don't know.
Lucy's
I don't
live.
know.
Let's rate her.
We could raid Lucy. That'd be nice. It's been a while
All right, there we
since
go.
I've annoyed Lucy. You set it up?
I did indeed.
All right.
All right.
Then with that, hey, we'll do this again. Maybe.
Maybe. Next Friday.
I didn't rate it a 4 out of 5. I rated it a 4 out of 10. Just to be very clear, I rated it a 4 out of 10, not 4 out of 5.
And I forgive you.
Yeah, it's shit. There's better shows out there. Go watch Sugar. Sugar does this kind of thing far better. Go watch Sugar Sunday. It's on Apple. Sugar.
I'm on a no sugar diet.
Sugar's brilliant.
It is.
Sugar's brilliant.
All right. Have a good night. I'm ending stream.
Enjoy.
That went fine.
That went